SCP-2521 is a very mysterious SCP. The only information we have about it is in the form of pictograms, and any written and spoken information carriers are taken away instantly by the tentacle monster. But what if we could use the scarce information we have about it to learn more about the anomaly, possibly even reveal its backstory? In this SCP Exploration episode, we explore SCP-2521's mysterious origin story. Before we begin, don't forget to subscribe to our channel with notifications on, so you don't miss any of our upcoming exploring SCP videos. And if this video gets 1500 likes, we will explore what 2521 does with all of its victims in a separate video. Let's begin this origin exploration with all the information we know about SCP-2521 from the original source, its Wiki Entry. As we know, the creature senses when someone transmits information about it and takes it away, but it doesn't understand pictograms. So the fact that it understands human speech and text communication would imply it is either sentient enough to understand it, or is of human origin. However, it doesn't understand pictograms, so it likely isn't of human origin. Secondly, SCP-2521 can phase through solid matter, and if it is triggered inside an SCP containment facility, it appears out of nowhere, takes whatever it is after and disappears. And given the fact that SCP sites have near impenetrable defenses, this means that SCP-2521 must have access to an alternate reality in order to be able to appear and disappear from nowhere. And thirdly, in these pictograms, we see that when taking documents and D-Class personnel away, a red heart always appears on SCP-2521's head, even though all test subjects are absolutely terrified. This may imply that despite kidnapping people and scaring them to death, 2521 may actually have good intentions, but we will definitely need more than this to prove it. And unfortunately, this is pretty much everything we can learn from its wiki file, so we will have to find other sources if we want to learn more about it. And if we dig deep, we discover more information. Please Say My Name is an SCP Tale that begins with the word he, which is linked to SCP-2521's wiki article, and continues with the anomaly's story. It is stated that the creature was born into a cold and empty world in an unknown location, and the anomaly itself didn't know where it was, or what it was. SCP-2521 is said to spend time listening and watching our world, waiting for someone to help him answer his own existential questions, but is always left disappointed. So he waited for someone to say his name and meet someone who can tell him more about himself. But thanks to the SCP Foundation's work, this was proving very difficult. And every time he met a human, they ran off into the horizon, terrified. SCP-2521 noticed that with time, he was hearing fewer and fewer voices mention something relevant, thanks to the Foundation's effective containment, and this meant that there was practically no chance to learn more. He no longer waited for his name to be called, because there was no one to call it, and everything about him had already been written. SCP-2521 felt abandoned in an empty world, with no one to talk to, and assumed there was no escape from this torture. So let's summarize what we learned from this SCP Tale. Firstly, our assumption that 2521 originates from an alternate reality is confirmed. Secondly, judging from the fact that SCP-2521 doesn't know anything about itself and the reality it is currently in, this means that it was created by someone or something, and didn't undergo an anomalous transformation from human to monster, just like we assumed. Thirdly, the anomaly must be sapient, because it is described to be self-aware and full of negative emotions. And lastly, it is stated that 2521 can detect information exchange about it because it can overhear all human communication. So we learn quite a lot about 2521 from this SCP Tale, mainly that it is a very misunderstood creature and isn't really a monster, but something that just wants to learn more about itself. But this still doesn't answer some of the more important questions. For example, who created it and why? And how was SCP-2521 even discovered, if the anomaly only appears when information about it is exchanged, and before its discovery, we didn't even know it existed? Once again, we will need to find more articles if we want to learn more. And if we dig deep, we find answers. SCP-1346-1 is a tale that describes an experiment featuring SCP-1346. And because this experiment is vital to our origin story, we will need to first explore SCP-1346. 1346 is a corridor approximately 420 feet or 130 meters in length, with a heavy steel door that sits at the end of the hallway. Its anomalous nature manifests at about 200 feet or 60 meters along its length, and after this point, electronic devices malfunction. At the same point, subjects report hearing clicking, tapping, and other sounds, though not from any clear source. During this period, subjects start to report feelings of apprehension which intensifies the longer they remain in the passageway, and the further along it they traverse. Eventually, this turns into a fully fledged phobia. Some may begin to hallucinate, imagining the presence of an entity. Near the end of the tunnel, or if more than 10 minutes have been spent in the zone, subjects become overwhelmed with fear and retreat as fast as possible. In most subjects, the fear subsides upon exiting, though in some cases, long-term psychological trauma has been observed. Now that we know about SCP-1346, we can read the SCP Tale. The experiment features a D-class that is said to have much lower fear reactions as a result of another SCP, making him the perfect test subject. As expected, the test subject began to feel fear, and the feeling slowly intensified, but the D-class got within 15 feet or about 5 meters of the steel door. At this point, the phobia was so strong that the subject nearly collapsed, but the scientists had rigged him with a shock collar, and upon activation, the subject awoke from the fear and felt normally. The D-class was then ordered to open the door, behind which deep thumping sounds could be heard, like the footsteps of a giant. And when the D-class opened the door, the footsteps suddenly ceased, and the radio that the subject was wearing also went quiet. The D-class entered and closed the door behind him. Since the radio didn't work anymore, there was no way to learn what was behind the door, if it hadn't been for the note that was slipped under the steel door, which was extracted using a drone. In this note, the D-class reveals that he can't say what's behind the door, but calls 1346 a prison that must always have at least one inmate inside, and when he entered, the thing that was previously inside escaped. The test subject also says that he can't talk about the creature, because if he did, this note would be gone in a matter of minutes. And lastly, the note ends with the following words: "All I can say is, good luck containing it. I mean that." Let's analyze what we learned from this SCP Tale. Firstly, it is stated that the sounds from behind the door sounded like the footsteps of a large creature. And if we go back to the SCP-2521 wiki file, we see that the tentacle monster is shown to be about 7 feet 3 inches or 2.2 meters tall, and is significantly wider than a human, so 2521 could definitely have caused such sounds. Secondly, this creature escaped when the D-class went through the door. And let's not forget one of the main questions we asked at the beginning, namely, how was 2521 discovered, if the anomaly only appears when information about it is exchanged, and before its discovery, we didn't even know it existed. If 2521 was behind that door, and the D-Class reported that something anomalous had escaped, then the SCP scientists would have certainly reported about this creature and assigned it a number. And of course, this would make 2521 appear and take this information away, informing the Foundation of its capabilities. So if SCP-2521 was trapped in 1346, this would certainly explain the paradox of the tentacle monster's first appearance. And lastly, the D-Class that was sent into 1346 couldn't write any information about this creature, because the note would be gone in a matter of minutes, something that definitely appears consistent with SCP-2521's behavior. So could it be that 2521 escaped from SCP-1346 during the experiment? Judging from this SCP Tale alone, this seems very likely, but we first need to compare this information with everything we learned from the previous SCP Tale. Please say my name, in order to say for certain. The first thing we need to keep in mind is the fact that the D-Class successfully wrote a note after entering 1346. Let's not forget that the creepy footsteps were coming from behind the door, so when the subject entered, he must have directly encountered this entity, and if it was evil, he would have died, with no chance of leaving a note. But as we saw in the previous tale, SCP-2521 is an anomaly that only wants to learn more about itself and doesn't want to harm anyone, so this certainly explains how the D-Class wrote a note afterwards. Secondly, the creature wants to learn more about itself, so it is logical that it would want to escape and meet someone who can help. And when it escaped and apprehended the SCP staff, it probably discovered its ability to anomalously sense when information about it is exchanged when the SCP scientists wrote its Wiki Entry. This enticed SCP-2521's curiosity, of course, and it probably chose to take away anything and anyone that knows something about it from now on, in order to learn more. So we see that the note from the SCP-1346 experiment not only described an anomaly just like 2521, but the result also appeared consistent with another SCP Tale that describes 2521. But unfortunately, these SCP Tales don't give us any hints regarding 2521's creator and the origin of 1346, so we may have to explore this in another video. But regardless, it seems that 2521 really did escape from SCP-1346. This just goes to show how in the SCP Foundation, good intentions can lead to bad outcomes. And we say bad because we don't know if SCP-2521 will remain friendly, given its growing frustration due to its inability to learn more about itself. And if it wanted to, it could easily begin attacking and killing innocent people, because it can always escape through a wall when the MTF personnel go after it. Let's just hope this doesn't happen. This concludes our SCP-2521 origin story. So what do you think? Did 2521 really escape from 1346? And how does this mysterious reality look like? Let us know in the comments below. Please make sure to leave a like if you enjoyed the video, and don't forget to subscribe if you enjoy this type of content, as we have many more interesting SCP videos coming up. And if this video gets 1500 likes, we will explore how SCP-2521's alternate reality looks like, and what it does to all the D-Class when it takes them away. And as always, we will see you in the next video.